What was Tricky's problem? Tricky's problem was that he was overweight. And who do you think was responsible for this problem? Tricky was also responsible, yes. But yeah, he's fat. Fatty is okay, fine. Yeah, his mistress, that was Mrs. Pumphrey. She was responsible because she fed him so much. And whenever he felt a little lazy or he was not active and he was running around, and she would keep on feeding him. And Tricky had developed such a huge appetite that he just loved to eat. You give him food at any time of the day or night, he would eat it. And as a result, what happened was that he became very overweight. It was difficult for him to walk. And yes, so when the narrator saw him, what was his condition? What was Tricky's condition when he first saw him? Or rather, when he saw him there in this very terrible condition? Was walking very difficult, with a great difficulty? Yes. And he warned Mrs. Pumphrey also, right? That otherwise I would have to take him away and he would be kept in surgery if she's not careful about and to give him exercise. And what excuses Mrs. Pumphrey make about his exercise? Yes, what excuse did she make about his exercise? That he does not walk much and he is, not so active. And yes, the gardener also has a problem, so he's not able to play with the rings and all his exercise which is required. And from what we have read yesterday, what are the things that suggest that Mrs. Pumphrey is quite rich and she loves to pamper her dog? What are the things that we have read? Yes, what is it? What are the things that we have read? He was wearing a tweed coat. And look at your books, please open your books. Look at your books and give me the answer. So he was wearing a tweed coat, and the narrator tells us that he owned a number of coats. And he was wearing that coat and he was having so much of difficulty in walking, wearing it. Secondly, what are the kind of food that he was given? So, right, cod liver oil and yes, so this ball of Horlicks and so much of things, right, Mrs. Pumphrey used to feed her dog. Yes, chocolates and chocolate cake and everything, which you're not supposed to give the dog because naturally the skin and the hair would start falling down. Yeah, so it is here that Mrs. Pumphrey has really pampered her dog. And now the narrator was expecting a call from Mrs. Pumphrey that she's going to put her dog into so much of trouble. And yes, so she finally does make the call. And what was it about? What did she tell about the condition of Tricky? Yes, Harshita, absolutely correct. Lots of cream cake and chocolates she fed him. Yes, what was the complaint about? Yes, what was the complaint? That he's not moving and he's so lazy and his eyes are all red and watery and he's been vomiting, right? And so she's really worried. And yes, so now what is going to happen? There's going to be a surgery for Tricky. Let's see what the surgery is going to be. Is he really going to have a real surgery or is it something else? Yes, so let's continue with the chapter, all of you. Yeah. Yes, see, the expected call came within a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was distraught. Tricky would eat nothing, refused even his favorite dishes, and besides, he had bouts of vomiting. He spent all his time lying on a rug, panting. Didn't want to go for walks, didn't want to do anything. Right? Yes, so here, this is what the problem Mrs. Pumphrey had, that her poor dog, she was so worried that he's not eating anything and he's just vomiting and not going for walks. I had made my plans in advance. He was expecting the call. He knew that this problem is going to happen. The only way was to get Tricky out of the house for a period. I suggested that he be hospitalized for about a fortnight to be kept under observation. The poor lady almost swooned. She was sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. But I took a firm line, and this was the only way to save him. In fact, I thought him best to take him without delay, and followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailing, I marched out of the car carrying the little dog wrapped in a blanket. So she's taken, like Mrs. Pumphrey is very worried, and the doctor knew that this was going to happen, and he said, yes, I better take this dog away before something even more serious happens, right? And he was prepared for this call. Now he's gone to the home and he's taking the dog away. He said, now for 2 weeks, the dog is going to be under my observation. I will be taking care of the dog, right? And Mrs. Pumphrey is very upset and she's going to miss the dog and she feels the dog is going to miss her. The entire staff was roused and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushions, toys, and rubber rings. Breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, a supper bowl. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey, with a despairing cry, threw an armful of little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. Out on the road, I glanced down at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. I patted the head, and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you haven't a kick in you, but I think I know a cure for you. Okay, right. So now the narrator is calm, has taken Tricky, and I put him in his car and is about to take him away. And before that, what has Mrs. Pumphrey done? She's brought in toys and rings and cushions and bowls. There's a breakfast one for lunch, for dinner, all so many things of his that she wants to send along with him. And it seems as if he's not going for treatment, he's going on a holiday, isn't it? Right? And before he went off, as he was about to drive his car, she threw a few coats also, little coats through the window. And the poor dog lying there on the seat and he's unable to move and, with great difficulty, he's wagging his tail. And the doctor says, yeah, you don't know what kind of a cure I am going to do for you, right? So I'm going to treat you. So let's see here that, yes, is Tricky's mistress a rich woman? Is she a rich woman? How do we know that Mrs. Pumphrey is a rich woman? The way she's pampered her dog, all the things that she's given and all. Yes, she has these coats for him and she has separate bowls for him. Yeah, like for lunch and dinner and breakfast and the coats, the toys and the rings. So she's really pampered him a lot. Yes, so soft cushions and toys and rings. And the way she's packing him off as if he's going to a very nice place, but not as if he's not going to get his treatment done. Now let's see what kind of the treatment the doctor has in mind. Is he going to really pamper him as he's used to, or is he going to be very strict? Yes, how do you think we can cure such pets? If your pet got overweight, how would you take care of it? Feed more? No. Let's see, Mrs. Pumphrey was doing that. The dog is a little lazy, inactive, more food, right? By walking, yes, absolutely. By reducing the diet. And only when, or at fixed intervals, you should have, yeah. And even for us also, I think so we should also follow the same routine if we don't want to become so obese, and considering that nowadays we're just sitting at home and in front of our computers, isn't it? Right? So yes, so it is very, very important. So diet plays a very important part. So here, yes, at the surgery, the household dogs surged around me. So as he carried Tricky inside, all the dogs gathered around him. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes, and when put down, lay motionless on the carpet. He's looking at the dogs and with dull eyes. The other dogs, after sniffing around him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. They never even thought of him as a dog. He could object here that he has got, and they just looked at him and went off. Why? because he was so inactive, so lazy, he was just lying around and not doing anything and not even getting up and walking. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dogs sit. See, look at the bed in a box he's made for him in contrast to all the comfort and the cushions and everything that he had at home. For 2 days, I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. 2 days without food, only water. At the end of the second day, he started to show some interest in his surroundings. And on the third, he began to whimper when he heard the dogs in the yard. The whimpering sound, that soft little sound that dogs make, when they hear these sounds and they want to see who's there outside. When I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe, the greyhound, and his friends. So Tricky, very small dog, right? And as he went outside, he was immediately engulfed, like, yes, all the other dogs, they came around him. There was Joe, the greyhound, and Joe's friends. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, okay, the dogs moved off down the garden. And of course, they lost interest. Tricky followed them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. Sorry. So he's following them, Tricky, and he's like, of course, rolling with his fat. It's difficult for him to even walk properly. Later that day, I was present at the feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into the bowls. So yes, the person there taking care of the dogs and is feeding them. There was a usual headlong rush followed by the sounds of high-speed eating. All the dogs rushing to their food. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meal. And the dogs were in a hurry to finish, that if they did not finish on time, the other dogs would finish their meal for them. So they are fighting for their food and they're very hungry because they keep on running around the whole day, doing a lot of exercise. They're very active, which is a complete change in lifestyle for Tricky. When they had finished, Tricky took a walk round the shining balls, licking casually inside one or two of them. Next day, an extra ball was put out for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. So that day, when Tricky came outside the room and when it was lunchtime, and when the caretaker put the food in the bowls for the dogs, all the dogs went running towards the food, ate it hurriedly. And when all the dogs went away, so Tricky also went, because for 2 days he's not been given any food. He's on water, right? Now he's just getting a little active. He's just come out of the box and looking around him. And then, yes, so he was also there, walking towards the bowls. And next day there was a bowl for him with his food. And he was walking towards it, hungry. He wanted to have his food. From then on, his progress was rapid. He had no medicinal treatment of any kind, but all day he ran about with the dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages. So then his progress was rapid, so quickly he improved. No medicines were given. What was given? The change of lifestyle. He had to exercise a lot. He was given limited food, and he had to compete for that with the other dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages, their quarrels, their funny fights, and they're running around here and there. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, thrown down, right? Other dogs jumping over him, and he didn't mind it. Tramped on and squashed every few minutes. So there were so many dogs running together here and there, and they would jump on him and they would squash him, but he didn't mind. He became an accepted member of the gang, an unlikely, silky little object among the shaggy crew. Silky little because of his coat, right? Because of the hair, right? And he was very well groomed and very well taken care of. Every day, baby would be brushed and taken care of. But the other dogs were not very well groomed. They were not taken care of, and they were running around here and there in the open, right? Now see the change in Tricky, fighting like a tiger for his share at meal time. So like a tiger, yes, there, tiger jumping on his prey, attacking. So like the other animals, or you can say, yeah, like the other dogs, sorry, and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. And even at night, he was running around with other dogs, even though he was not as big and strong as them, but he never gave up. And this brought about a big change. He had never had such a time in his life. He was really enjoying all this exercise, all this adventure. During the day, he would run around with the dogs, and at night, they would go hunting rats. Okay? Would Mrs. Pumphrey be happy seeing all this? If she saw all this happening, what would Mrs. Pumphrey do? Yes? Do you think Mrs. Pumphrey was aware of the treatment given? Was there any medicines given to Tricky? Any medicines were given to him? No, no medicines were given. And so what was done? There was a change in his lifestyle. There was a change in his diet, right? And he ran around a lot. He exercised a lot, and he would compete with the other dogs for food, right? So yes, so now earlier he was so lazy, he barely moved, but now he's enjoying his fights and his running, and he's giving equal competition to all the dogs. And so yes, so that has made things much better. Is this clear till here? Any doubts? Any questions? It's quite simple and easy till here, isn't it? Yes. And right now, Mrs. Pumphrey is not aware of what is happening to her little pet dog. All the while, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background. So where was Mrs. Pumphrey? She was really worried, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletin. So she was asking about the health of her pet. I dodged the questions about whether his cushions were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to the weather, but I was able to tell her that the little fellow was out of danger and convalescing rapidly. He's recovering rapidly. So was he doing all that? Was Tricky using all the cushions and the bowls and everything and the coats that she had sent? Was he? No, he was not. He was there living out in the open under the sky, the stars, and a little box where he was sleeping, right? Fine. So Mrs. Pumphrey there, very worried. But one thing that the narrator told her was that, yes, he's doing much better and he's recovering. The word convalescing seemed to do something to Mrs. Pumphrey. Convalescing, you're recovering after an illness, right? Okay. Is your diet the same when you are not well? And similar to what you have when you are healthy? So when you're not well, is there a change in your diet? Is there? Do you get to eat all the things that you like? Or you have to eat very, you can say, light food? Yeah, so some of the times, yes, there is a change in diet also. You're not supposed to eat heavy stuff and right, or spicy and right? Yes, okay. And so naturally here, why is that food given to us when we are recovering? Say you've had a fever and you're not well, and so naturally we are given the kind of food so it's easy to digest, right? So it does not cause even more problems to us. And here, yeah, so and some things are given more also to you. Yes. So you're supposed to eat more fruits also, maybe have soups and your khichdi and all that, isn't it? Right? Why? So that it will help you to recover also. Yeah. And sometimes, yes, you are given, even if you become very weak because of that fever, then mommy makes sure that you have a lot of good food also to eat to recover that lost energy, to recover that lost strength. Now, when Mrs. Pumphrey was told about this, yes, that Tricky is convalescing, that he is recovering. So immediately what came to her mind? He needs to eat a lot of rich food. He needs to eat a lot of good food, right? And of course, here I hope that she does not feed him so much that once again that problem begins, and with great difficulty he has come out. He's become a little active. And what do you think now Mrs. Pumphrey is going to do? Yes, she's definitely going to interfere in the treatment or not? Is she? So she's worried about a little dog. She started to bring around fresh eggs. 2 dozen at a time to build up Tricky's strength. Who eats so many eggs? Maybe bodybuilders, maybe? Yeah. For a happy period, my partners and I had 2 eggs each for breakfast. So no, they did not give the eggs to Tricky. So the narrator and his friends, they had 2 eggs for breakfast every day. But when the bottles of wine began to arrive, the real possibilities of the situation began to dawn on the household. But why is she sending all this? These are so that Tricky will recover faster. Yeah. It was to enrich Tricky's blood. So she thought that he's become very weak, and so he needs to have a lot of liquids and eggs and wine also. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with 2 glasses of wine before and several during the meal. Yes, so what about the doctor? Was all the food that Mrs. Pumphrey is sending, did it reach Tricky? Did it reach Tricky? No, it did not reach Tricky. And was it a good thing that it did not reach Tricky? So who was having all that food? The doctor and his friends. So they were having the food, and so they were not, yes,